Welcome, everybody. Good Tavach. Tonight, we are here with a very, very special guest, Rabbi Reuven Wolf, who's Rav in Maayon Yisroel in Los Angeles. And this is a very, very big sichos for us to be able to sit and to get him to answer our questions.
This is my channel. It's good. He's inviting. Good. Continue. This is good. Yes.
So
it's their podcast on my channel, so it's good. Okay, so no one is confused.
yes. This is
okay.
We're what's it called? Going on to
broader
horizons, correct. But yeah, the main thing of this of what we do is, we try to focus very much on Moshiach, meaning that we've had discussions on different topics of what the Rebbe said specifically in Beis, and we already interviewed a few people.
Mainly, like the name suggests, greeting Moshiach. That's the topic. The Rebbe gave us the job to greet Moshiach. What does that mean? What are we supposed to be doing? What does it look like? And certainly also talking to people who were around then when the Rebbe was saying these things, or themselves have interesting opinions and views about Moshiach, to interview them to see if they can help us understand. By helping understand them, they'll help us understand what we should be doing to bring Moshiach.
Yeah, so tonight we're sitting with Rabbi Wolf, and we'd like to ask you a few questions.
Here we are.
So I would, obviously you're well known for your Kach and Moshiach. So, but there are certain things that not necessarily are so well known. So I would like to start from, I guess, you. I'd like to start with you. How'd you start in this whole Moshiach business?
Moshiach becoming Chabad, or...
Right, specifically starting from before you got into Moshiach, you got close to Chabad. Right, so if you could start from there.
Good Tavach, everyone. It's hard to say before you got into Mashiach. Mashiach was before the world was created. Was the spirit of Hashem was hovering over the world. That's Ruach Hashem Melech HaMashiach. So Mashiach is in God's mind from the very beginning. So it's really connected to all of our neshama shlichus in this world, especially our generation, who's a generation of the redemption. So when we come down into this world, we were already in the Moshiach channel, if we might say. However, to everyone, it's about their own journey and their own discovery and their own connections. I grew up in a Hasidic home, but not Chabad. I grew up in a Hasidic town or city, Borough Park is a very Hasidic city amongst Hasidim and a Hasidic family. And I grew up with a lot of Hasidic warmth. And from a very young age, I was exposed to big tzaddikim. I probably absorbed a lot of their holy light. I used to go to the Kloizer Rebbe. He was an incredible tzaddik. The Stechina Rebbe, Alav Shalom, was a really holy Jew who, it's interesting, he would cry out Ad Masai, you would hear him when he would Roshana Rabbah, times like that. He would like I thought, you'd think Ad Masai, the Rebbe was the first one to cry Ad Masai, but he would say, Mom, as you can hear his studies, he would scream Ad Masai. He would yell. Ad Masai means until when? You see, he would turn over the worlds for Mashiach. He passed away when I was 9 years old, but I literally grew up on his lap, kind of. So that's probably a lot that instilled in my neshama, the subconsciously on a deep level, and even consciously, but from a little child, a connection to Mashiach. But before we go to Mashiach, when I was around 12, 13, 14, I started dabbling a lot in some level of mysticism and what's beyond the practical observance of Judaism and Talmudic study, which most boys in Borough Park do in yeshiva. I had a extra knack, if we might say, and a desire to explore Jewish thought, philosophy, and mostly as it related to mysticism. So I used to learn always the Hasidic works, and a lot of the Svarim that no one touches in yeshiva, Musar works and philosophy, and that was very much part of my search. I can say a little bit that my soul was a little on fire, searching, and when I was about 17, 18, I went to learn in Eretz Yisrael in a non-Hasidic school completely, in the city of Nebarak. And when I was there was a Shabbos that boys were invited, yeshiva boys were invited to come, what we would call today's days a Shabbaton. So there was a Shabbaton in Kfar Chabad, and friends of mine took notice of it and said, let's go. And I went for Shabbos. And that's when I was exposed for the first time to Chabad Hasidus. And from that day on, I am soaking it up. And the nice part, I feel, is that I still have an enthusiasm and excitement, and I'm still soaking it up. I can't get enough of Hasidus. Thank God. From that time when I found Hasidus, it literally is my fuel. It's my life. It's my oxygen. And thank God for Chabad Hasidism that is so vast and so much. And so you don't get bored. You can learn and learn and learn and learn, and you haven't even scratched the surface of all the Hasidus and all the Maimarim that there are. That was my journey. And of course, in the course of the journey, I met the Rebbe. Now, I would say, you don't know what, there are forces that you can identify within yourself in choosing your life, especially as a teenager. If you're an inquisitive person, and that's the time in your life that you there's a certain rebelliousness. I don't see myself as I wasn't looking to rebel against anything in any way, but I was just searching, and I was looking for something that will, that ignites my soul and gives me a deeper understanding in godliness and holiness and godliness and Torah and mitzvahs. But there is, I should probably credit more than anything else, higher forces that are beyond my understanding. And I can't leave out the part that probably without this it wouldn't have happened, was I had friends who brought me to the Rebbe once, right before I went to Eretz Yisrael. I mean, a friend who wanted me to come to, I never was in Crown Heights. I never went. I don't even remember going to parades. That's how much disconnected I was from that whole scene. Maybe when I was a little kid at some time, I don't remember. I went, but a friend of mine once took me there, Yutas Kislev, but when we came, it was already in Memtes. I think it was Yutas Kislev Memtes. The Rebbe didn't farbring anymore during the week. Memtes, the Rebbe stopped only on Shabbos. So when we got there was no farbring, and then we turned around and went back home. I didn't hang around and left. Right. But before I went to Eretz Yisrael, I think it was Achar Shel Pesach. That's when, because I left to learn in Eretz Yisrael in Memtes. By the way, for those who don't know, it's 1989. So that's when I went to learn in Eretz Yisrael. I was 17 years old. But we went for Pesach, after Pesach's month. We spent winter in New York, and then I went. That Matzah Shah, that Achar Shel Pesach, I went to receive Koshel Bracha. I think that was my first encounter with the Rebbe. Yes. So my impressions were, you see a tzaddik. You saw something that just completely, took me. But, I've been in other Hasidic courts, and of course there was what was different by the Rebbe was that the energy level in the room was like just on a different level. And I felt when the Rebbe were like that, it was like on a level that you can feel. It's like, but then the Rebbe gave me Koshel Bracha. And then just 2 months later is when I went to Kfar Chabad for Shabbos. So I attribute that on a subconscious higher level that directed me. I would say the Rebbe took my neshama then when he gave me Koshel Bracha, and he said,
"You'll be with me.
You're mine. You're in my camp." So that was that. Yeah.
So this is Tafshim Mem Tes.
That's Tafshim Mem Tes. Yes.
So then you went to Eretz And you said,
And it was Yud Beis Tammuz when I went the first time. So I went there to Israel beginning of Chodesh Iyar Sivan. 2 months later,
At what point
on Yud Beis Tammuz, I went for Shabbos, and then it was a process. It wasn't like I became a Lubavitcher. I became very curious in Chabad Hasidism, and so I started learning.
and so for the next few years, you were.
I was hanging out around.
You started going Shabbos?
Didn't go Shabbos much. We got in big trouble in the yeshiva. We got into big trouble in the yeshiva. The yeshiva is a very Lithuanian yeshiva, which at that time was extremely hostile to Chabad, and we didn't see eye to eye. Let's just say it that way. The yeshiva did not approve the fact that we went. We didn't ask permission, obviously. Got into some trouble. Survived the year. I stayed in the yeshiva for a year, but by the following year, they gently asked me to leave.
Oh, wow.
By that time we already were. There were some classes happening. The yeshiva found out that there were some secret Tanya classes going on and stuff like that, and they thought that we were being this Chabad influence. So I left after spending 1 year in Slobodka. Mamish like a year later for Edelsman we were out already the following year. Yeah.
Elul
Yes.
death.
Right. Yeah. So not Edelsman.
No,
That's right. Yeah. I remember. Yes. At that time, I was a little bit lost because I had already developed a lot of interest by that time. It's already a full year. Rabbi Mendel Wechter would give classes in Bnei Barak. And I went to his classes every Thursday night. It would be till 3 a.m. Sometimes. 12, 1, sometimes. Or Fabrengen was 3 a.m. And I would come back and I was like on seventh heaven. I was on steroids. And then when they asked me to leave, I wasn't ready to go to a Lubavitch yeshiva, simply because I just,
right.
Yeah. Chabad was more, it's interesting. Today, Chabad is so much more accepted and so much more part of the run-of-the-mill, the Jewish people. People have friends, Lubavitchers. There's a big, then Chabad was very much an island on its own. It was, if you became a Lubavitcher, you really skipped ship. You really left your place.
So not an easy thing to do.
It wasn't an easy thing to do.
Couldn't just like dabble in.
I had a lot of friends who were like, they gave me a very rough time. Those. And I was like, it was a kind of, if you were going to Lubavitch, you were going to like completely transform your life.
Wow.
That's what it was like.
So when did that happen?
But as a young age like that, I'm not, it doesn't bother me that much. I'm still molding. So I was just going, but I was concerned for my parents, like a little bit. I was like, I don't, so at that time, I didn't know if I should, I wasn't ready to go to a full-fledged Chabad yeshiva. But I just needed a place where I wasn't looking to get kicked out again. So I went to learn in Mir in Yerushalayim. Mir Yerushalayim is such a big yeshiva that it's basically you do whatever you want. There's no, Slobodka was maybe 300, 400 bachar. Mir Yerushalayim at 2,000 guys,
Wow.
or whatever, over 15 or something. No one knows if you're coming or going. So I was there in yeshiva, but we had our own in Yerushalayim. We even had our own shtibel, our own Chabad shtibel in the Beis Yisrael area. There was a Rav, Rebbe Lazar Halpin, Olav Hashalom. It was his shul, and we had a kollel. Interesting, Rabbi Gershon Avtzin, who started rap. It kind of he was our mashpia there in the yeshiva there. We learned with him, and I think that was the seeds of the rap. Even though we weren't rap guys, that kind of guys we were. But the Satorskis, that's your father's friends. The Satorskis were with me, and Strohs. This is a whole chever. This is all guys from Borough Park who were into Lubavitch and into Hasidus. Some more, some less Lubavitch, and so on and so forth. We had our own. We used to have shiurim even with. We even had a prior. We had a shir with who's the mashpia in Yerushalayim? A real Itchofen. Yeah, he gave us a shir once a week, and we had a lot of shiurim, Fabrengens. It was open.
So this is Tafshin and Aleph.
It was Tafshin and Aleph, yes. And that was from Elul, Tafshin and Aleph. So this is for those who. This is from from Elul Tafshin Nun.
So the summer of
from
1990.
1990. The summer of 1990. I'm in Yerushalayim, and I would come home for Rosh Hashanah always. During that time, I went to 770. Never for Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. I was still firmly etched in my in my Hasidic heritage. But I would come on over some Chazbei Shavas and go to the Rebbe sichos a little bit here and there. And I went a few times to Dollars and that kind of thing. But I went back to Yeshiva to Eretz Yisrael. And I wasn't even in, this didn't last too long because I was there Cheshvan Kislev, 2 months. I was Elul and then Cheshvan Kislev. Then I went back to New York because I got engaged. I was very young. I was 18 years old still.
Wow.
I went back, I guess, first of all, it's quite common. It was a little young for my family. I think my parents maybe wanted to, because the Lubavitch thing, before things got out of hand completely. And I got a special, incredible answer from the Rebbe then, which I'm discovering depth and that, like till today. Last week when I was talking to someone, 2 weeks ago, I discovered a new depth in the answer the Rebbe gave. My father went to ask the Rebbe then if he can bring me home for a shidduch. My father never was by the Rebbe. This was the first time my father went. For Dollars, he went to ask the Rebbe if he can bring me home.
This is because of the war going?
Oh, no. The war, that was when the Persian Gulf War was going on. And the Rebbe was then not letting anybody, the Rebbe said, Eretz Yisrael, everybody should stay. But my father asked the Rebbe if he should bring, because he knew that I wouldn't be interested if he tells me in the middle of a Zman to come home to get married or to find, to meet a girl. I'm just 18 years old. I wasn't set in my mind for dating. So, I didn't know that he was going. He wasn't even planning. Someone met him in the morning in shul and he said, "What are you doing today?" He said, "Do you want to come to Lubavitch?" Once my father went, this was the question. It's on video.
He
asked the Rebbe, he's bringing me home. And he asked the Rebbe, my son is learning Eretz Yisrael, should he bring him home for shidduch? The Rebbe's answer then was that the Medrash says that it was like a unique answer. The Rebbe says the Medrash says that there are some people who go after their zivug, and there are some people that their zivug means their soulmate, comes after them. Yitzchak, he went, his zivug came to him, Rivka came to Yitzchak, and by Yaakov went to the well to find his zivug. So the Rebbe gave a down. The Rebbe said, "So the bachem machlet sein, to a will sein von der sind ein heulchen nach zivugoi, or der will sein von der sind zivugoi heulch achra." The boy should make up his mind if he wants to be from those who will chase after his soulmate, his wife, or he'll be chased after. So my father took it kind of as the Rebbe gave permission, and he kind of called me and said, "It's up to you, but the Rebbe gave permission, so come." You got like a kind of a bracha. So I did go, and I met my wife. And now I never understood that answer in the beginning because I didn't understand it. I understood it very superficially because my wife at that time was also studying abroad. She was in Gateshead in England. So I was in Israel, she was in Gateshead, and she also flew in to meet me. So we both flew in. So we kind of met in the middle. What does it mean? He's going to go after her, she's going to go after him. All right. And then I'm saying a medrash. I didn't give it what. I never pondered it until 15 years after what happened. It's very interesting. We got married. My wife comes from a completely non-Chabad family, and my family is also non-Chabad. And I was already steeped in the study for all this time, but she not. I managed to convince her enough in the 3 dates that we had, sitting in her parents' living room for an hour and a half each one. We met Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We were engaged. We could have been engaged Thursday night, but the Rachma Strifka Rebbe said, "Wait till Motzei Shabbos." So it was, very chick-chat and very, first girl I met, very short. All my friends were telling me, you're a Lubavitcher, you're never gonna know when it's gonna ruin all your prospects, all your shidduchs. She didn't even know. She didn't know. Maybe my father found out a little bit, and he discussed it with me actually before. And the truth is, I didn't identify as a Lubavitcher. I identified as a Hasidic guy who loves Hasidus. That was my identity at that time. I actually divided it into three. I knew the objection to Lubavitch then at that time was that the Chabadniks were seen as weirdos. Like, they're just interesting guys. So, but I knew that that it's not like I didn't think she would be, and I couldn't marry someone who would have an issue with the Rebbe or would have an issue with Chassidus. So I divided Chabad in Chassidus, Rebbe, and the culture, Hasidic culture. I said I'm connected to the two. I'm not connected to the third. So she can have that because she don't live a regular life. It's just and she saw that it was, I had what to share with her, and I was inspired, and I can. So, but then we got married, and I didn't impose anything on her. So she was doing she davened. I davened Nusach Hari. She was davening her Nusach Sfard, and
you had switched from.
I had switched. Again, it was a slow process. It was an incremental thing. But by the time I got married, I was davening her Nusach Hari, and I remember a chassid, someone changed my kesher on the tefillin. He said that
the other way around.
The iskashrus, no, not the other way, just the Alter Rebbe's kesher is.
Oh, it's a different kesher.
Yeah, that you pull through the thing. So I remember that when I came home one day. No, it's the same way. The Ashkenazim do it this way. It's just that we tighten the kesher itself through. We run the kesher through. It's the Alter Rebbe's kesher. So I remember. So this chassid in Eretz Yisrael said that the tefillin dasai makusher. So he went and he made a kesher. I remember that when I came home, and one day my father comes into. I was sleeping in the morning, and he tells me that he left his tefillin in the office. He was inspired. He did tefillin. He did a mitzvayim with the Russian fellow, and he forgot his tefillin. He's taking mine. And then I realized he's going to see. He's not going to know. And not only that, I was uncomfortable. Suddenly I'm changing minhagim. My father is the most easiest going fellow. He's not a problem. But changing a minhag is, it's hard. So I was uncomfortable. So I remember I told my mother, and my mother started yelling at me, "You're crazy. Why'd you change it?" I said, "I know what to do. He's putting on the tefillin." I ran to the shul. I was looking in the window, and I was seeing that he's trying to figure out what he's. That was one of my funny moments. But anyways, the short thing is that it took, I didn't put any pressures on her. And we were kind of building a home, but there was I was a Lubavitch. I davened in Lubavitch, a Muncie then at that time, and connected to the Chaver. She was kind of on the side. But then, after already I moved to LA. I lived 5 years in there. 10 years we moved, and then after 5 years we moved here. So maybe 10 years after my wedding, my sister followed me to Lubavitch. I have a younger sister. When she got engaged, her husband came to visit. Her chassan, who was then engaged, came to LA, and we spent the Shabbos with him. This is during the engagement of my brother-in-law. He spoke to my wife, and he told my wife about his brother's family, in-laws, whatever, where the father is a Lubavitch or the mother is not. Such a mixed marriage kind of situation. So half of the boys all went to Lubavitch. The girls all went to Beis Yaakov and the other schools. They all married like Litvish boys. Wow. And literally it's like two families in one family. There's like the Chabad family, and I don't know, he was painting the picture, I guess, that it was not so, whatever it is, whatever. So my wife was hearing that, and she was thinking, and it came to her mind, she was thinking, I don't want to have like a split family. I have to decide. I got to pick a side what I'm doing. I can't have like this parav in between situation. Nish, like you say in Yiddish, nish tahin and nish taher.
This is Samachet. What is this?
This must be in the sometime in the Samachs. And at that point, she said as follows. She said, Chassidus, I can't take away from my husband. It's his life. So if I can't pull him away, I'm going to have to join him. And when she joined, she became even more. She pushed that we should get the kids in Lubavitch. She went much more than in terms of like of going than I was like. She was like an engine. And then I realized, and then it all occurred to us years when the Rebbe was saying the boy should decide if he's going to go after her, or she's going to go after him, that the Rebbe was giving a bracha, because a lot of my friends who were my friends who were also in the same place that I was and married non-Chabad girls, because they were also once they got married, the women put their foot down and said, no more of this, Mishigas, and they this. So, but from all of them, I was the one who came in, but what I realized a few years ago is that the Rebbe, that it's like the Rebbe mentioned Yitzchak. We know about Yitzchak is that Yitzchak didn't work on influencing anybody. He did his thing, and he dug his will, and everybody, and people automatically came to him. I realized that with my wife, I never had a situation where I was trying to push anything. It was just, she said, Chassidus is his life, is his thing, and I like it. That's what she said. And I like him the way he is. So why would I try to just pull his soul out of him? And so it was like the Rebbe was not only giving up, he was like literally, it was such a clear thing about my life that in terms of the zivug, that she will join without avodah. Create a big fire, create a medura, and they will come.
Who was it? Book I read about God said what from Raquel.
Yeah.
So she says there that she asked the Rebbe if her husband was not, or prospective husband was not, then interested in becoming Chabad at all, and had a lot of influence that was very negative to Chabad, and she asked the Rebbe, Chiddush, or I don't remember the letter. She asked the Rebbe, not Chiddush, right? It must have been a letter. And the Rebbe said that it was Megimel. It was Megimel. It was still label. That's what it was. And they asked a bunch of times, yes, to understand, and if they should continue dating or not, seeing as they weren't coming to an agreement with, they liked each other, but this Chabad thing wasn't working out. They couldn't agree. And the Rebbe said they shouldn't continue dating. They shouldn't stop dating. Should they get married? The Rebbe said, yeah. And then she wanted to know, well, what's going to happen with the Chabad? And they ever said that he will end up becoming Chabad. Don't worry about it. By the time they had the first bris, it was already full-fledged Chabad. Worked out.
Yeah, that was partly my fault. He learned with me. Yeah. We learned together.
So early 1951 is you get married in 1951.
1951 would make me a little old. I'm getting there. Yeah, because the nuns.
Yeah. So 1991, you're already.
So I got married in L of 1991. I got married like right by the riots, the Crown Heights riots. That's right.
So
and my Afraf, I'm trying to think, my Afraf Shabbos. No, it was Pakiseitze. I thought it was Shoftim. And then Kiseitze, my Afraf I was like that's when. I received, however, the dollar. I received the siddur from the Rebbe for my wedding Thursday after Shoftim Nun Aleph. So Shoftim Nun Aleph, the Rebbe spoke that crazy sikha about the Navi, and you can see how that shook the world because the Crown Heights riots happened that week. And that Thursday, I got my wedding was Sunday, but the wedding was early, so I went to get the siddur. It was that Thursday. And it's interesting. I'm just seeing, I like, wow. There's something very, very interesting, right? I just realized, as I'm standing by the siddur, I went dollars. But by dollars, you're like anticipating, you see already the Rebbe, you're coming by. So you're a little prepared. We were all standing outside the Rebbe's room. There's a few other chasanim, and they were begging me to go and come back Sunday because they knew I'm a kohen. The Rebbe would ask who, and the Rebbe would always choose to give the siddur to the kohen, and then you were supposed to give it to the next person, but the one who would actually get it. So I was the only kohen. So the Rebbe came out, and the Rebbe asked us if the kohen. The Rebbe handed me the siddur. I remember the door opening up and the Rebbe walking out, and the eyes are like it was similar to the eyes that you see when that picture when the Rebbe is going, that famous picture, the Lav Chav Zayin. It was that image. The Rebbe walks out the door, like it knocked the wind out of you. And I remember thinking, this is like a Navi. Literally, it felt like, and I wasn't processing the thing. It had that sense that a prophet is walking out. It was like, whew. I got the siddur then, and then I moved to Muncie, and the Rebbe had, during that whole winter, Nun Beis, I was then living in Muncie. So I was coming a little bit. I wasn't.
You're getting hold of the sichos, you're reading, or that's not really on your radar?
No, I was, because I was already part of the whole thing. I wasn't, there was, at that time, there was so much chassidus. I wasn't like learning these sichos be'iyun, but I was with the energy.
How was the energy in Muncie?
No, we were all like, at that time, I mean, it was a lot to process, because I came to Lubavitch. I'm a teenager. 17, 18, 19 is your most impressionable years. 17, 18, 19. By this time, yeah, I'm 19 and a half. No, I became 20 that. No, I became, one second. Yeah, I got married. Yeah, I became 20 that year. And it's those years. And so not only am I getting Lubavitch, I'm getting Moshiach too, you know? But to us, it was clear. As the sichos were coming, as we were learning them, as we were understanding them, it was clear that the Rebbe is Moshiach.
That was clear beyond the. That was
I mean, beyond. I mean, it was a chiddush. It was a chiddush, and I remember arguing about it and having fights about it and whatever. But I was caught up in the frenzy, for sure. Strong.
Well, so I guess what were your?
I can't say in the way that I have it now,
right?
Because now it's with so much more hasaga v'havana. Then it was more mitzad, the makif, the aura, the whole thing. No, it also made sense as I started, because without Chassidus, all of Yiddishkeit is pretty choppy. Chassidus gives you puts everything together. And once you see everything together and you see the end and then you're realizing that this is
we're going somewhere.
Right now we're going somewhere, and Chassidus is leading the way, and the Rebbe is. So this is where. Yeah.
So not being that we're coming up to Chas Nisan, I guess. Where were you in when?
So I that was the time that I went back to. I remember landing in Eretz Yisrael. I think I left Chas Nisan. I think I landed in Eretz Yisrael. Did I land on Friday morning? I might even have landed on Friday morning. The sichos was Thursday night. No? Ches Nisan?
I don't remember.
I think it was a Thursday night. Yeah. I think I landed at Yisrael Friday. We found out when we got there. This is before I'm engaged.
Before you're going back to Yisrael.
I'm going back. This is still Tafshin. No, Aleph. Yeah. This is after I'm a chassan. What happened was, after I came back in Tavis, I didn't go back to Yisrael because my parents didn't want me to. I was a chassan plus the war. Right. So I stayed in there, and I was. So that was during that time. I guess I don't have such clear memory of all of that. I must have gone quite a lot, Sunday dollars and that kind of thing. But then this was finally after Pesach. I was going back.
Oh, so Pesach. So after Pesach,
I went back, and when I went back, that's when I remember landing and hearing that we was talking that there was a earth-shattering talk. Did I have an understand? Did I don't remember so much.
It wasn't so much about the skull of everything, and then.
Yeah, I want to know.
I don't know. I can't tell you now what I was feeling and sensing, or knowing then when the Rebbe said the sichos.
Right. Do you remember what?
I remember arriving in Eretz Yisrael and right away meeting the Lubavitchers wherever the setting was at that time in Yerushalayim or what, and it was something that was being spoken by everybody. So I still have a memory of that.
It was definitely significant.
It was a very significant thing. Yeah, that's what I remember.
So okay, so the sichos, as the sichos were coming out, you were learning them. Maybe
we were learning them.
It was more the arum of the chassidim and the fabringans, and basically the talk that this was being discussed.
I would have to say it's not like at that time I had already learned through Likutei Sichos, and I had learned through Tanya, and I'd learned through that I was only learning the newest sichos that were coming out.
Oh, you were still.
I was still soaking up the basics. I was still absorbing, and I would also learn the sichos. And as the sichos were coming out, let me put it this way. I was definitely at that time going along with the enthusiasm and the excitement that everybody was on, and that Mashiach is going to reveal himself.
That was the prevalent culture at the time. That the Rebbe was certainly going to take us out of Gullus. That was the feeling. That was the.
As far as I remember, that's what it was.
People for bringing this was the top.
And there was always there was the tension of like, yeah, no, like I think that, I remember that to a certain degree. What we could say was yes, saying what is not, what is, it was like that energy you felt. Yeah. And as Nun Bays went in, and so I don't have distinct clarification. If I was living in Crown Heights and I was then like mamish in the source, having
So Chavzai Nadar.
So I was actually by dollars the day before Chavzai Nadar. My wife and I went. We went then to get dollars that Sunday. That night we were traveling to England. That we both had friends who were getting married. I had a friend that was getting married, and she had a friend that getting two different weddings, both in England the same week. So this is the first trip we did as a couple. A few months after our wedding, we're going to England. And why pushed me to go that Sunday for dollars with her, I don't know. I don't remember what was on our mind, but we went. The lines were very long that day. That's what it was a very long line. Yes. So we had to go to the airport. And what happened was she ended up going by, but I didn't. Oh, wow. Because I had to leave. But she went by. She got $1 from the Rebbe.
The woman line was shorter. What was the?
Yeah, it's her line. She was on line. I was a man. We're going women. We're going women. So I didn't get that Sunday. She did. And I remember I found out that what happened. Either I found out earlier, or I think I found out the next morning. Tuesday, must have been Tuesday morning. This was Sunday. The Rebbe had the stroke on Monday. So Tuesday morning, I was in England, in London, and I went to the Satmar mikveh. Mikveh, you find out the news. Someone said these words. He said, Moshiach had a stroke. Because he was teasing, he was making fun. Some Satmar chassid. He said, Moshiach had a stroke. And I remember, I couldn't believe, like, what?
So you found that?
Yeah. Again, I definitely heard that in the mikveh. Whether that was my first source of it. It was before cell phones, before WhatsApps. And if unless you're picking up the phone and you're talking to somebody, how are you going to know?
Mikveh.
And the mikveh. That was the olden days news. That was your,
The water cooler.
Yeah. Yes.
So you went for like a few weeks.
No, we were just it was just a few days.
And then you came back and
everything was, the world was a little upside down for us, because like, how do you eat this? This was not like expected in the mindset that we were then. But that I to me, the Chavzai and Adar, and ultimately that kind of, because of the concealment and because of this unexpected and because it was like this kind of created a stronger fire. I believe that the fire of Moshiach and the Rebbe being Moshiach was even increased as a result of the stroke. Yeah, it definitely. Again, if my recollection was that, if you want to explain it psychologically, Hasidim needing to deal with it or whatever the thing is, but the reaction was that the Pashtus, once the Rebbe had a stroke and the stroke affected him, so how are we going to see him again? It's because he's going to get it. So the Mashiach the only way out was the miracle of Mashiach. That's right. So that's what I think affected the crowd very much. I remember being very upset when a speaker spoke in Muncie, and a Lubavitcher speaker that I actually admired, and I still admire. I love him. I love his insights. Yeah, you can go. So I love his insights. I love his, I'm an admirer. But I remember at that time, I don't agree with him on so much now, but still. So I remember then he spoke in Muncie, and he was saying, this was after the second stroke. I think it was after the second stroke, yeah. And I think he was speaking for a Muncie crowd, and he was basically saying that the Rebbe, I was so upset. He was saying that the Rebbe could pass away. Oh, wow. And that was the first person I ever heard.
It was not a popular thing.
Yeah, it was not a popular thing. Right. And he was saying, get ready, it could happen.
Brace yourself.
Brace yourself. Brace for impact. That could happen. And I remember how upset I was. So the next thing, what really, and then King Gimel Thomas was impossible that it would happen. I mean, so I'm saying, I remember going through it, that at that time, it was just inconceivable that would happen. Right? The fact that the strokes happened, okay, that's part. Mashiach has Yisurim and goes through Chalenu Nasa, and he carries our pain and suffering, but that. So when I was told, I think it was my mother that told me, I remember I was in Borough Park that Shabbos, when either she was early Sunday morning, I was in it, and I heard that news, I said, it's not true. Can't be. And then it was, and we went to Crown Heights, and whatever, but I remember being sick for 2 days, like, that's just feeling, just, mom, I had a headache, I was feeling very, very, very knocked out, and lost. And then again, it takes a while till things kick back in. So then, but you have to adapt. So what was the adaptation? I wasn't going to erase the whole philosophy. So everything was like making sense that this is what's going to happen and so on and so forth. So at that time, I remember it was okay. So we found midrashic sources to say that it's going to be for 45 days and whatever. And we were waiting. And we were all waiting. As time passed. So as time passed, things started like settling, and I feel like the on a mental, external, cognitive, on the outer level of mission, there was at least questions, doubts, and uncertainty. But deep inside, I always had like a conviction that this is what it is, and I wasn't. I don't remember if I don't think I was learning those sichos in particularly and kachin zich and them. We were living with Hasidus and so on and so forth, learning Hasidus, living with Hasidus, believing Moshiach is coming, believing. And I remember, because people think that it's a new thing by me, that you became a Meshachist. It's not true, because if people would question and would argue with me, if people point back on the question, it's for sure. No doubt. This is the way it is. I had my arguments from time to time with many people. But it was, in a way, I should say, very much on a level of emunah, where you say ganva pumachtar terachmana karye, which means it was pure emunah. It wasn't processed so much in a. It definitely was weakened, at least in my Chabad Chagas experience, my intellectual and emotional experience, to a very great degree. But on the other hand, I always had a kachin Mashiach, and I always had a kachin Geula. I wasn't focusing so much Rebbe, but always had a kach. And there was always a pain to me. How come there is not such a the fervor about Mashiach is kind of
dissipated.
Not dissipated, but became much less in Lubavitch. It bothered me over the years, but not enough that I should go ahead and make a shturim about it. Go ahead and start. I was bothered. It bothered me. I felt like it's like there's something missing. It hurt me. Yeah, and all these times I put myself very much into Afatzas Hamayanis. Meaning,
When did you open up Maayon Yisroel?
I Maayon Yisroel opened up after 15 years ago. But I was giving shiurim before that. Yeah, I came to become a teacher here. I'm a Rebbe. I was a fourth grade teacher for 13, 14 years. But I was giving classes, and I saw my mission very much in teaching Chassidus, which is still what I do, what my Indian is. And where the switch happened, I would say the switch in that Moshiach started becoming like the topic of everything by me. That switch came about at around Tavshin Ayin Hey. Ayin Dalid, Ayin Hey. Why? At that time, I came across the Alter Rebbe's Maimer, which was Elef where the Alter Rebbe seems to predict that the year 20, which was the Tavshin Ayin Hey, which is which year? 2015. 2015 is a Kates for Geula. I taught it, and I got very fired up about it, and I was talking about a lot that year, and I got very fakach because again, I had a Moshiach bug was a part of me.
You came across the Maimer.
I came with the Maimer refreshed me. It like gave me something now, like there's life here. So I think if I can predict, if I can take a moment that really put a fire in me, and as a result of that, and I started regurgitating a lot of Moshiach and a lot of I spoke once. I gave a talk there was a big event in Moshe Ganzwal here for the women. I think it was after there was a few tragedies in Lubavitch. Women passed away. They made a big event. And during that event, I spoke about the need for a Mashiach renaissance. I said that these events that are happening are all Chevlei Leida. Again, and then I decided then to start teaching a class on Mashiach. And I started teaching a weekly class then on Mashiach. So I was focusing, as I started focusing far more onto Geula, onto redemption. And this was going along with the time. I'm going to bring in this where in terms of the political dynamics of the world, there was also the big shifts that were going on. Trump was on the horizon. And I still believe that that the Eibishter put him into this whole sphere, and that's why he's so hated and so whatever, because he had to, and if he will still come back, hopefully Mashiach comes today, so we don't need that. But that there's certain things that I believed he was going to push through. And I couldn't stand the klippas. I have an allergic reaction to the klippas. What is very strongly klippa, I sense. and the others who I don't know, my soul felt a lot of darkness in them, and I just couldn't handle them. And he was a breath of fresh air in the sense that he was going to, and as you see, like certain things that he did, like in a million years, it would take, like, let me put it this way. If you go through a process, in a million years, it wouldn't happen. In other words, to go and announce Jerusalem as the capital of this, they would still be, if you're going to go through, it's never going to happen. It would never happen. It needed a crazy person. A person like him. And he was coming right in at the time when the Alter Rebbe's Maimer and everything. So I started already seeing a certain force in the world that's taking place, a cosmic force that's moving pegs in that direction. So those who followed my classes during that period saw the transition. You can literally see it because I became gung-ho and I was finding everything that was happening. I was like, and then it's kind of like everything started being an expression of Geula Mashiach. And as a result of that, I started feeling that, am I one of the only voices? So I spoke up about the need for Lubavitch to be more involved. And that's what led me back to learn the sichos.
That's when you spoke in 77?
Yeah, that's what led me deeply back into the sichos. Again, I don't know how much I learned these sichos I don't have a recollection. Should I say that I didn't sit down ever on Yom Tov and read the sichos of this? I didn't learn them like as my weekly regimen. It was not. It was other sichos and other. I found actually those sichos very inspiring in general. I don't think
like Chassidus. I mean,
yeah. So but the main koch in Moshiach and this and that started at that time, and it just increased as the years were going, and that led me to the talk that I gave in 770.
I'm saying, I guess they saw that there was someone who. So they asked me saying who came.
Oh.
When they asked you to speak,
so
how did that come about?
Okay, so there's a lot of I feel like that experience was, I felt very much that I was being driven by some force that was beyond me, that I became so vocal. It's an interesting story. It happened that during all of this transitioning that was taking place in the world, taking place in my own reawakening, so to speak, my Moshiach juices that were frozen, I would say, started warming up and started circulating again. That was the point. It started pumping, it started circulating, and it started being very much, it was becoming way more in my consciousness. I'm actually thinking now, if you give me a moment, I'm actually thinking now that it didn't even start then. It started a few years before that. I saw the mimer, I marked it in my head, it was there. And I remember walking to shul. And as you walk to shul, my wife is laughing today. I'll tell you a funny story. I'm pretty absent-minded. I don't notice. My wife was laughing today because I'm across the street from my house. They put up a billboard, a big orange billboard. A house is for sale. And everybody in my house has been talking about it because you usually have a little sign for sale. They put up like a huge billboard with an orange color for sale on my block. I walk past this. So today I was walking home from the bris from Michi, and my wife says that you saw the billboard. I said, which billboard? She said, on our block. I said, what are you talking about? She says, I can't believe you walked there already. How many times? Everybody, there's nobody who didn't see it. I didn't see it because I'm not buying a home, so I'm not looking at what's for sale. It's not in my head. But I do remember explicitly walking to shul, and I would like space out thinking. And I was thinking like, I would count down the months to Tafshin Ayin Hey. I was so like waiting. And I do believe, I know that a lot of people think I'm nuts for that, but I do believe that here's the thing. We keep on talking about the Rebbe. We're in a powerful messianic process, and everything that's going on from when the Rebbe was talking about it, we're in that process. To me, there is no question that's from 19.
But like he's not good
from but in from 2015 or 2016. In other words, the energy started. That it was a Shemitah year, and it was a post Shemitah. That's right. So we entered into a different, and I believe now every Shemitah we go into, it's getting like crazy. That's why when 1980 came, Tashim Pei, I don't know what I felt something in my bones, or 2020. You can listen to my classes. I'm not making this up. I told people at the beginning of the year, fasten your seatbelts because we're going into the pays and things are going to explode. Why am I saying that? I don't know what pushed me to say it. I was sensing it and feeling it and pay, and it made sense with a lot of Chassidus, with Pella and Plois, and as you're in it, you feel it, and I would allow that just to like go through me. And it's true, like what happened in 2020, the chaos that's going on, the worldly shakeup. And today, everybody's talking about Mashiach. Everybody. In 2015, I was definitely from the early ones. I felt the vibrations very strongly. So why am I saying this? So So no. To me, the fact that he announced his presidency then, and then became president and did what he did for 4 years. Again, it was inconceivable to me that he would lose in 2020, and it looked like a flashback. But as I'm getting a little more mature in my situation, I think mature in my thinking, I see that this last 4 years obviously plays a very big role in it in a way of exposing a lot of things, so that there is a we wouldn't have the entire world being given a chance to vote for the Jewish people or vote opposite it had he still been in power. I mean, everything could happen. I don't think October 7th would have happened. I mean, the Eberster runs the world, but from within a Kalim of Teva, had he been in power, all this would not have happened, and so much other ridiculous, all this would have been. We would have been in so much stronger position. So the fact that it is, and we are where we are today, obviously is part of the Moshiach process. I got a very, very powerful answer from the Rebbe when he lost, and I was so upset, and I was going to like do my little work from the Maayon microphone about and at that time the Rebbe shushed me very strongly. I got 2 or 3 letters, and it was so clear. The Rebbe said, talk Hasidus, don't go there. In other words, and the way I understand it is that there's something much deeper than you can ever figure out going on right now. But it's not like it's.
Yeah.
So I that's why I don't. If you listen, I don't mix the politics much in. But then every week it was it was very clear. It was very clear. I had all the dates that he did his things matching up with the Rebbe. It's true. You can look through those dates. It's all the Rebbe's dates that he did like crazy things. So that's why I thought the Rebbe was working through him. Mashiach powers were working through him, unbeknown to him. But being okay, now we'll say. Any case, why? So during that time, I came across the Sefer in Yonei Shel Moshiach. I'm a huge fan of that Sefer. A book from the Rebbe spoke that we have to take Oiris Tatayu Kelim the Tikkun. I think he was one of the biggest who accomplished to capturing Oiris Tatayu Kelim the Tikkun in formulating a book that can take the Rebbe's message, including even what we call Zahus HaMashiach, the identity of Mashiach, but in a way that is obvious and clear and teachable. And I mean, when I say teachable, it's not teachable for people on the street yet, but it's teachable for people of.
Clear pen. Yeah,
it's a very clear pen, and it's very developed, and it's very well done. When I read that book, it kind of certified and put everything that I've always known, but I had pieces, and gave it a shleimus. And I couldn't put the book back. I learned it for 2 weeks from cover to cover, and after that, it was like this. Flooded, like such an energy in me, and I was feeling enormously constricted by the fact that I feel like everybody, this is an emes and a truth, and as being part of the Chabad movement is I can talk. No, I can't talk about it. But why I'm not talking about it enough, and that the thrust of the entire movement is not conveying this to Moshiach to the amount. I'm not talking about Rebbe being Moshiach. Just the whole Moshiach Torah is not the koch. It's not the koch. It highlighted that frustration, and I flew into New York at that time. Remember what it was? It was Gimel Tammuz. I flew into New York, and I had this, and I said the entire Tehillim in 770. Early morning, I remember, and I said that I felt that it's my duty to change this. I don't know what came over me, but I have to do something to break this. I remember saying the whole Tehillim, and I went 4:00 in the morning. I woke up. I went. I was waiting. The mikveh was still closed on mikveh Meir, but I waited sitting on a bench there till it was open. Then I went to 770, said the entire Tehillim. said the entire Tehillim that morning. Went to the oil afterwards. I wrote or whatever, and I wrote that I'm planning to make a big Yud Beis Tammuz Farbrengen. I don't know if I'm gonna make it or whatever. And over there, I want to bracha, and I want to break. I want to like speak about Mashiach, like something like that. It was to that effect. I came back to LA and I opened up the letters in this room. It was the most spectacular ever. The Rebbe was saying after all these years that you were Meiser Nefesh for Baal Shem Tov and like this and that, and in Russia you were so whatever, and now I hope that now that it's Chag HaGeula, Yud Beis Tammuz, and that you're gonna start doing the work, whatever, and that you're gonna reach thousands and tens of thousands, and like a bracha and I still have the letter. I have to find it. It was like you're gonna have from this Yud Beis Tammuz. So at that time, I called Rabbi Levin from Beis Betzalel. Didn't know. I asked him if he wants to do a big Yud Beis Tammuz. I want to come, and he was always happy if I could come speak. I used to teach all my Thursday night classes. Used to be for years. So I went over there, and during that Farbrengen, I spoke very strongly, and I spoke about what's going on in Lubavitch. Like why have we kind of like dropped the ball on Mashiach? And you don't realize those who are currently now, there is so much Mashiach talk in Lubavitch. It was very, very quiet those years. It was like really. I mean, there was the what you call the what would they call them? You would call the fortresses. Well, the fortresses, but the fortresses were very isolated. There were the Tzvas fortress, the 770. And there were a few fortresses, but it didn't.
About as a movement.
And no, it wasn't the talk, and it was, and Shluchim were even uncomfortable using the word. Even it was mamish. It was frightening. Here and there were spurts, but this, I do believe I had a big sichos in changing the entire thing. There was a shift. There was a big shift, and it was connected to that event. I spoke over there. I didn't know that someone took the video. They took it, caught a particular part where I'm speaking very passionately and fiery about what has happened and where's the fire and they made Hebrew subtitles, and it went viral in Israel. That's what happened. And it went viral in Israel and in different places. And the Mashiach community got very excited because here you have someone who's doesn't look like your classic Mashiachist guy. He's not a pin-wearing guy. He's not carrying a yellow flag. And yet he's calling out the Lubavitch. What's going on? Where's the fire? Where's the passion? What's going on? So I had some communication with them and so on and so forth. And then in the middle of the summer, this was Yud Beis Tammuz, we're getting closer to maybe Elul time. What's his name? It was Rami over here from the Bagel Star. Rami Dweck. From the. So he says to me, the Chevra are asking if you can talk at the Mashiach, at the Kinnis in 770. Okay, I have to say that I first declined, and I flew into the Rebbe. It was a very hard decision. I knew that it could have a lot of repercussions, and I wasn't. And
because you were officially.
Yeah, I'm also not. I don't like to make trouble. I'm not. That's not my. I don't like the fire. The only reason I sometimes speak strongly is because I believe passionately in it, but not because.
Right. It's not for the sake of politics. It's not.
I don't like stepping on anybody's toes. It's not. It's never been me. It's never been anything. It's not mine. And I'm not a confrontational person. I hate an argument. I never argue with anybody. I mamish can't stand arguments. I get very nervous when people argue. No, really, I don't. I keep away. It's not my nature. I have a very chesedic nature. I'm not that. I know I lack serious gevura. You know, this is my week of work. So it was very uncomfortable, and I was scared, and I didn't want, and I just go whatever. But there was There was a clear. I flew into the Rebbe. It was Sukkot. That I flew in because my father's birthday. My father had 70th birthday. I flew in. I think it was right after Chalamoid Sukkot. I flew in, and right after Sukkot, and I went to the oil at that time. I wrote a long letter, and I wrote to the Rebbe that I was asked to speak, and I'm scared, and I don't want to chas v'shalom do something that's hepech the ratzon. I wasn't thinking, like whatever. It was a big move for me, and it was something that I was scared, and I wrote in a long letter, and I said, but if this is the will of the Rebbe for me to talk and to, because I believe that I could have an effect. I didn't have an asaga how much the effect would be, but I thought at least if I could, I'm willing to risk a lot. See, it was also for me, it was not just risking, it was risking Maayon Yisroel.
Right.
Because Maayon was hide for 8 years. I said Torah from the Rebbe without mentioning the Rebbe's name. See how parav I was? I taught all of the sichos without saying the Rebbe. I was saying whatever. Obviously, from time to time I would mention the Rebbe, but like I was teaching Chassidus. My thing was Chassidus without the Shar blood, just to smooth, get Chassidus in this and that. So
my life share.
Yeah, this was Maayon Yisroel, who was that is very, very is affiliated Lubavitch, but people this and that. I'm a
Contemporary source of Jewish mysticism.
Yeah, and therefore to come out and suddenly be standing at such a kinnis, that's like it's the extreme. It's like I don't know what. See, I can't explain. I don't even know what came over me that I even considered doing it. That's and I remember when I left the oil, I went in, I davened, and I came out. The Rebbe there was a video playing, and the video was the Rebbe was talking, was Shoshana Rabbah, and the word was V'yered mi yom ad yom uminor ad afsei. Like Mashiach will rule from Yered yom fin, and it was so powerful, and there was such a malchus to get seer. It was such a like. There was talking about the Malchus of Shloim, the Malchus of Moshiach. I felt it was, sometimes you feel they're talking to you. I mean, I don't remember exactly, but that was what I felt at that time. I felt like I got my answer. I flew back and discussed it with Mashpia. So I was told that if you feel passionate about it, do it. So I made a couple of conditions. That no one is allowed to know about it, and I have to be the last one to talk. And the hardest thing was, I had like about a month before that to think, and I walked and I thought, and my talks were coming out with a lot of negativity, of like a lot of criticism, like a little, and I had to, and I was kept on flushing that out. I didn't want to be in any way. And then I didn't know. I just had like this. But when I flew to the kinnis, I didn't write a speech. I didn't know what I was going to say. I just had like that day, that morning, I was Shabbos Mavarchen. I said the whole Tillim 7:7. And at that point I said, Rebbe, just talk through me. I don't know what to say. I'm just going to let you. Matzah Shabbos, I went and took a walk for 2 hours around one of the streets, Carroll, and around and around and around for 2 hours. And then I went there to speak, and I spoke. And I think the words which I think the feedback that I got is that everybody said you spoke the truth. You spoke, and I spoke to one of my Yitzmin Alev. I spoke about and I didn't plan this, but I think it was like that Rebbe made it. I spoke about my difficulty and my journey, and why it resonated so much, because What I was talking about was the experience that everybody had and went through. So people were like, yeah, like there's somewhere in me that believes so and so, but then on the other hand, I have questions and I have this. But it was presented at Chevra. And the moment I finished speaking and I left, I can't say I regretted, like, what did I do now? Like, what are you, crazy or something? It's almost like something pushed me. And then, because I got so scared. And I was hoping that no one was going to see it. And no one was ever going to see that video. And the moment I heard that it's starting to get out and so on and so forth, and I started getting messages from the entire world, I got so scared. I thought I'm done. I thought I'm going to have to shut down my center. I thought I'm going to have to like this. It's going to, I'm going to be completely defunded. I'm going to lose everything. And what I could say is that speech woke up lots of people. And it wasn't just that. Then the follow-up of that were so many different things that Baruch Hashem I had a sichos in being part of, that is now creating, at least not just in Chabad, but in the world, there's a very strong, all the things that Baruch Hashem I had the sichos to be involved with, that are making their way through the Jewish people and they're influencing in a big way. The Mashiach brachas cards that are now popular like crazy started as a Mashalach Manis in for Maayon Yisroel. We selected the brachas. We were the ones who made the card, and now it's everywhere in the world. Everybody has the Mashiach brachas cards. We have a group Menatzchim. The Menatzchim was the seed for the entire Tetzalts. And how Menatzchim start? It was before Yud Shvat 3-4 years ago, and I was thinking, Chevra, I felt I was in this room then. I said, I have to do something. I have to call this one. I need to get 100 guys. We started. What happened was Moshiach office at that time had hired a new person.
Parstic?
Yes, Parstic. But it wasn't really much active. There wasn't much going on. It was like, it was kind of, he didn't. So when we started Menatzchim, which we made a shidduch, we connected with the Parstic, and there was and that's when that point he decided to make the first big event that the Mashiach office did as part and called it Tut Alts was Chav Ches. That's why it became, and that's when it was named Tut Alts. It came from that whole thing. So that created the entire Tut Alts with its, I'm not involved so much with it, but the seeds of it, which that created that whole, which involved also the Kinnis HaShluchim 2-3 years ago was Chaysarin Un Beis, and a lot of the eviction movement. Wait, the whole entire women's group, Rivki Katz and the entire women's Welcome Mashiach group, where did Rivki Katz get excited about Mashiach? By that Yud Beis Tammuz Farbrengen. She was there at that one. She went on fire at that Yud Beis Tammuz Farbrengen when I spoke. This is even before. So Rivki Katz turning over, and now the Armon coming into thing. I'm just telling you a few. There's so much that Baruch Hashem, I feel like there's a special. So, but you know what? It's all good. But the Rebbe, if we don't get to the finish line, it's all tab over it. But I here's the thing. I think that each and every one of us has the koiches to turn over the world. Turn over the world. And if you're willing to make yourself a little uncomfortable, and you're willing to stick your neck out a little bit, and I have to say, this is a very important thing I will say, is all my fears of losing everything did not happen. I have to say that sometimes I'm a little uncomfortable because I don't like to be seen as a radical. I'm not. So sometimes I go places and like, oh yeah, he's the extremist. Like that. I don't like that. I'm just a regular guy, So I don't like to be whatever labeled as like whatever. I can learn Ayin Beis with you and someone and or whatever. But in terms of financially, and in terms of my work and quite on the contrary, a huge explosion. And since that day, I see incredible blessings from the Rebbe in a very big way. And a lot of people are scared. A lot of people are scared that if they're going to talk about Mashiach, it's going to ruin. I don't think so.
We've been mentioning recently on our platform that a lot of this is in our head. We're uncomfortable. We're scared it's being Melachik people. It's not Melachik anybody.
It's so true. It's mamish not. That's the thing. It's we decided that the people can't handle it. That's it. And because we decided it can't handle it. I find that everybody can handle it. If mamish can handle it, if you're talking and you're talking with emes and you're talking with people, see it's Dvarim Yotzim and Alev, but not just that. You learned. You safer. You know the information. You understand it. You understand the concepts. You're speaking. I'm not saying every person that hears me always agrees. People have a question, but no one is. It's mamish in our head. It's funny, and even in my head, it's still there. I still think that people will be turned off and scared. So a few weeks, just happened this week. A few weeks ago in shul, I don't remember what it was, or Shabbos. I have my times when today I spoke the opposite. Today I spoke about everything being brought into Kalim. The Tikkun, it was a very grounded. A few weeks ago, I don't remember which week it was. You were here. You were there. No, it was an explosion. I spoke Shabbos over here. It was wow. It was all out. And there was a fellow here who had met with me, totally not Chabad, not anything. And he had met with me a while ago. He wants me to do a little podcast, actually, to take certain fundamental points of Yiddishkeit and to speak. And I don't know what brought him up that Shabbos. And then I thought to myself, so much so that when I saw him sitting there, I said, why is he here? Because I have this is my speech today. I'm I have it in me burning, who knows what I'm going to. And I was actually very worried. So he corresponded to me afterwards, sent me a message, something about the Rambam, with the Rebbe, and then I thought I'm over with him. And I just met him on Friday, and he says to me, "Oh, by the way, sorry I didn't get back to you. I'm still whatever." And said in my head, I chased him away, and he's like, "He just got busy with something." Quite on the contrary, he in his message that he sent me, he said, "That's what I mean, that people are such amaratzim, they don't know when you speak about Mashiach, they don't know the Rambam, they don't know the thing." So it really is that way. People want emes. People want, and this is the emes. I don't think it's clearly a decision was made that this is merachik people. It was not like a survey was. It was not like there was there's
no data collected on.
Yeah, there was not like it was a whole research team that put out and said it was mlechatchila. People made the argument that it's going to be merachik people. It's going to distance people. Now, I'm not saying that in 1990, 1991, there wasn't a buzheva going on, a coming from people who didn't like Lubavitch in the first place, that were saying Lubavitch is messianic and Christian and all that thing. There is such a camp, and it weakened tremendously over the years. Yeah, but I think people are ready. Could be the 30 years. Maybe it was necessary. I mean, obviously, this is what happened. Maybe it was necessary. Maybe I'm trying to figure out, did we waste 30 years? Could we have avoided it? Had we all been, I don't know. It could be, this is processing time. Come in Shadaite, Dabar Mishnin. I feel like the big minds of Lubavitch and the big heads of Lubavitch and those who kind of direct it, I don't know how much at that time they processed all this information. And therefore to say that because Chassidim are real Chassidim, but I don't know how much people processed it because it came so fast and it came in the middle of all this. And then after Gimel Tammuz, somehow it became taboo and it became uncomfortable. More than that, it creates pain. Because if you're just going with the Rebbe, it's because, okay, the Rebbe's work is continuing, and so on and so forth, and you can kind of deal with your pain of not physically seeing the Rebbe. So I think people didn't process. That's why I feel if you actually sit down and learn the sichos thoroughly, again, I can't speak for everybody. I don't know. Ain't day the same Shabbos. People read things differently, see things differently. To me, when I learn those sichos, it's very, very clear what the Rebbe is saying. And it's also very clear from the sichos that part of Kabbalah's Pnei Moshiach Tzidkenu is dealing with an individual. It's not just getting ready spiritually for an era. It has to do also with the Kabbalah of, it's clear to me from the sichos. Will everybody see that? I think it's pretty clear. So, but what's most important, I feel, is that if we can get the Dvar Malchus back onto
the radar,
and I think Tut Alts did a phenomenal job because they at least pushed it. Although, with the overly sensitivity, not to offend anybody, there's a lot of hiding or at least camouflage. Let's not say hiding. I say more not emphasizing, what people in Lubavitch are uncomfortable with because they think the world is uncomfortable with. So there's a lot of very toning down, but you know what? That's Kalim the Tikkun in the sense that let people come in bit by bit and it takes a while. This is it.
Yeah. So I guess the punchline is, if we can give in short, what does it mean to be a Mekayel? The Rebbe told us the job now, the shlichus. We've ended the shlichus of we've succeeded in the spreading chassidus that we've earned the Geula. Now the job is Kabbalah's Pnei Moshiach Tzidkenu. So somebody wants to know, what does that mean? Well, what does that mean in your?
I don't think it has one particular meaning. I think it is multi-leveled, multi. No, it's like a pyramid. It's it's to create Mashiach consciousness on all levels. So on the most outer level, even Gentiles, people should know that we're entering into Mashiach world. And they should have an understanding of what, like we had the CBS guy talking about what's that Moshiach flag.
Yeah.
So people should know and should increase their consciousness of Moshiach and of redemption and of a world of godliness. That's on one level. And then that Yidden should become so much more conscious of every mitzvah that they're doing as it's leading into Moshiach. And each and every one of us to start living our lives more consistent with a Geula, the state. This is big avodah on everybody's level. But the Rebbe always talks about not just Geula, the Rebbe talks about Moshiach. And that Moshiach is the epicenter of Geula. And in that sense, the Goyel is at the root of the Geula. And being that the Rebbe emphasizes in all the sichos of Nun Aleph and Nun Beis, you don't have a sicha where the Rebbe doesn't bring it back, that there is bringing it back, that there is a goyel, He puts so much emphasis, and he speaks about that goyel being the Rebbe the Shver, Moshiach in our generation. Why can't he just talk about the Geula, if that's all that it's all about? Why is he putting in the goyel there? And every single piece, it's all about the goyel. And it specifies who it is. If that information was not meant to be shared and it was not meant to be conveyed, then why in the world is he doing that? Especially he knows the fanaticism of who he's dealing with, and especially he knows that how the Hasidim will interpret it. He knew and he knows. So why is he driving that again and again and again? And I'm not even talking about the sichos where he clearly, but there is so much of those sichos that are where the goyel is so strongly emphasized again and again and again and again, being the smart man the Lubavitcher Rebbe is, and the ability to be able to see, like the Rebbe always says in many places, that it's not, there's nicht negeya what you're saying, it's how the people are going to interpret it. The Rebbe knew clearly what was going on in Lubavitch then, and the energies that were going on. Forget about Nun Gimel when the Rebbe's coming out on the porch openly, but the Rebbe knows. And yet he's saying, and he's encouraging, and so on and so forth, because it is crucial to Moshiach, whose identity, who Moshiach is a melech, is a king, and the king has to have a people, and the people recognizing his kingship and cheering on his kingship and emphasizing it, and definitely not saying in front of the king that it doesn't matter if it's you, it could be someone else. Right. And I know what I mean. No, what I'm saying, but that's the most disrespectful thing to a king. A king is someone that he and not someone else. That's like that's like, I mean, lahavdal elef halfei havdalas. You can see it from anybody that tries to mess with the big Donald, like how dare, that's an ego. Here we're talking about someone who's bottled the tachlis habitl. But today I'll give you another story. Today we were talking about the same malchus. The Gemara. Today I told the story. I came across the story. I didn't even know the ancestor, the father of Rabbeinu Hakadosh, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. In Masechtas Hayriyos, I never knew the story. I must have once known because I once learned Masechtas Hayriyos, but it's the years. I remember Reb Shimon ben Elazar. No, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel was the Nasi. Decided that he doesn't like that when the Nasi walks in, everybody stands up, and when the Rameir walks in, who's just a big Chacham, everybody also stands up. And when Reb Nassan walks in, who's the head of the Beis Din, everybody stands up. See, this time we're going to have to make Seder over here. He said only when the Nasi walks in, everybody will stand up. When the Av Beis Din walks in, only a shvil. The two sides should stand. And when the Chacham walks in, it should be like a wave. As he's walking, they stand up, but not. Notice, he diminished the kavod of all the others because everybody should know who the Nasi is. And Reb Meir and Reb Nassim got insulted. They got very upset about it. It's a funny story. It's a funny story. You know what happened? They said, because they weren't there in that shul when he made that takana. He did it behind their backs when they weren't there. The next day they came and they saw that no one was getting up for them. And they realized for him, yes. So they took offense and they asked, what's going on? They said it was yesterday, it was instituted. When you were absent, it was instituted, new rules. So the Gemara says that the Rameir says to Reb Nassan, tomorrow, let's put him in his place. I know he doesn't know Masechtas Uktzin. It's a small little Masech in the end of Shas. We're gonna ask him questions on Masechtas Uktzin. We're gonna stump the rabbi. He's not gonna know. And then we're going to say, what's the pasuk? Mi amalo gevuras Hashem yashmiya kol tehulas. That who's allowed to darshan? Only someone who knows all of the Torah. A person who doesn't know Masechtas Uktzin. And when we're gonna demote him. We're gonna teach him a lesson. A rabbi heard them discussing this. Eavesdropped, heard them, and he decided to save Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. He went to the attic next to where Reb Shimon ben Gamliel was learning. And he started learning loud Masechtas Uktzin. And this, when he heard it, he was thinking, why is he learning Masechtas Uktzin? Maybe he's giving me a sign that I should learn Masechtas Uktzin. So he sat that night and he learned the whole Masechta. The next day when they came and they tried stumping him, he was right on the thing, and they couldn't. So in the end, he kicked them out of the Beis Medrash, both of them. So Rameir and Reb Nassan were outside of the Beis Medrash, but because they were the biggest Chachamim, they kept on throwing questions into the Beis Medrash from under the door. And they were discussing, and when they didn't have an answer and they needed their help, they wrote the answers. So Rabbi Yossi said to Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, we're inside and the Torah itself is outside. How can you have them expelled outside? So in the end, he let them back in, but he made a takana that we shouldn't mention their names. They're now allowed to put a shmua in their name. So therefore, that's where Rameir got the name Acherim. Right. Rameir is Acherim, because you're not allowed to mention his name, even though the Mishnah does mention many things from Rameir, but Acherim and Reb Nassan is Yesh Oimrim. They were both punished because they were messing with the Nasi. But what do you see from the story? The Gemara says, Rabbeinu HaKadosh said that my father was the biggest anav. Father was the biggest anav. This very same, The answer is because when it comes to Nesios, when it comes to Malchus, there's no messing with that. And it has to be very clear. And it was the Mashiach is not just detail. Mashiach is everything. And when I say Mashiach is everything, I don't mean just through him. What I mean by that is the entire Eibishter's manifestation in the world comes through Mashiach. It's Hashem's kingship is his kingship. So there's no like if it was identified and if the Eibishter chose someone and if he's already sitting on this throne, you better believe, you better know who he is and give him that honor and that respect. And not so I feel very strongly that it is, and it's interesting that I struggle myself because I know, because in my head I think people are uncomfortable. And there are people that are uncomfortable. We'll challenge. But I think the more we learn it and understand it, the big problem over here is Gimel Tammuz, obviously, which, by the way, before Gimel Tammuz, the problem wasn't Gimel Tammuz. The problem was there. But the main thing is, Azay, if this is the challenge, eventually we're going to...
You want to have that challenge?
No, eventually we're going to...
We'll need to figure itself out.
We're going to figure it out because Saif Kol Saif.
The Torah promises.
The Torah promised that we're going to get the job done. So, Baruch Hashem.
Look, take it from Yad Mamish.
Yes.
And we want Moshiach now.
Amen. Right now. L'chaim u'lebracha. Yes. Agut tevach. Amazol de gevach. Still Chodesh Nisan. Yes.
ועד כדי כך המדב גולהוב der עם soll machli sein, Yechi המלך.